So, Therese, thank you so much for coming to speak about meditation.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
I really look forward to hearing your experience. So let's start with this. How long have you actually been meditating for?
About 39 years.
And you meditate twice a day for how long?
Half an hour twice a day.
So on my calculation, that adds up to about 14,000 hours.
Oh my gosh. That's a lot, isn't it?
It is a lot. What would you say you've gained from meditation over all this time?
So I came from a family of 8 children, and both my parents worked very, very hard. And the impression is hard work was what life was all about. And there wasn't much space for fun. So that's, my friends used to call me melancholic. And I think the biggest transformation meditation has given me a different meaning, a sense of a different meaning for life. And that meaning is it's the complete opposite. Cheerful, joy, happiness is more accessible and feels more natural.
And just so that we have a sense of what else you've done in your life, you obviously haven't just sat and meditated for 39 years. Can you just tell us a little bit more about what else you've done?
Yes, well, it depends where you want to start, but I'll start with, I became a teacher and I was living in London, and I started teaching in Down Hamlets. It was a wonderful time to be in London teaching. There was a lot of financial support for education, and in Tower Hamlets we had a wonderful school that really tried to educate the children in the sweatshops. So it was aiming to take these children out of the sweatshops in Soho and give them an education. And it was quite a unique setup. So it was team teaching, and yeah, it was just fun. It was great. So that's where I started teaching, and I started leaping forward. I got married in London and had 4 children. And when the youngest twins were 3 or 4, I went back to teaching at St. James. Ended up teaching there for a while and then becoming deputy head. And then took a great interest in children with learning difficulties and studied child psychology. So that, in a nutshell.
So that's a very full life alongside this continuous practice through all these years.
Yeah.
What would you say the practice has given you? Meditation.
It's given me an opportunity to every day just connect with that sense of myself that I think I touched when I was first given the gift of meditation, which was there's more to life. And it's a space, it's literally a space that opens up between what you think you are and what you might discover. So every day when you sort of sit down to meditation, it's like a discovery, a journey of discovering what really is there, what really is life about. And it's not about a definitive knowing forevermore. It's every day something new. So it's given me that opportunity and that love of learning something new, not necessarily about the world or a particular thing, but it could be anything. It opens up a huge space.
And when you sit down to meditate, is it always very clear and straightforward? Is your mind focused? Is it easy, or is it very variable?
The latter, variable. And it is like life itself. You wake up every morning, and you don't wake up in the same mood or space every day, and there's good and there's bad things hitting you from all quarters. So it is like that. You sit down in that state, if you like, to practice But you learn gradually that through the practice of mantra meditation that you leave it in, and the detachment from that pull lessens. It just gently lessens the attachment to the pulls and pushes, the ups and downs, the familiar sense of self and your place in the world. It gently kind of pulls you away from that, and you start to see it a little bit more from a distance. Yeah.
And do you think in that detachment you've actually lost some contact with people, or is that all been helpful?
It's actually, strangely, the opposite. You feel more connected, more unified. Interestingly enough, you would imagine you shut your eyes and you separate and you withdraw. For me, it's entirely the opposite. It's more of a connection through the noise, through the racket to the silence, where you feel that connection more deeply, more immediately.
And you've raised a family, you've had a very busy career. Do you think the meditation has in some way given you a little extra energy to manage all that?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, when your children say to you, "Mum, you're in a bad mood, why don't you go and meditate?" You know that it has made a difference. It really does. Because I suppose when you're working flat out, as many people are now, and have been, and with young children especially, your energy is just going. So having a moment, and it can only, even if it's just a moment, to just be with yourself, yeah, and leave those demands, and you regenerate. You do regenerate. It's like plugging in the batteries, plugging in to the universe, and that's the other thing. So you're not on your own. So that sense of plugging into the universe, or whatever you might like to call it, is vital.
If somebody were about to embark on a serious practice of meditation, what would you say to them? Obviously, it's not necessarily the easiest practice, but what would you say to encourage someone who was going to start meditating?
Yes. Oh, I would have to just say, go for it. Yes. Go for it, but with courage, and know that it's something to discover for yourself. Nobody can do it for you. Nobody can tell you. But it is something you can discover for yourself. And that's really meaningful to a human being. Something that you can daily discover for yourself. That, you're not reading about books, or you're not listening to a podcast, or you're not searching. You can discover it every day. Something fresh. So why not? Try it.
Listening to a mantra, because you've done mantra meditation, with all the commotion that goes on in our minds, is not that easy, obviously. Would you like to say something about that listening, real practice of listening to a sound?
Yes, it isn't easy. It does require practice, but and you need support. So for me, I've had a lot of support in my practice, and that's really important. That support, because without it, you may be fumbling around, and it's not easy. But when you begin to get a sense of really listening to the sound, what happens is the chaos and the racket just starts to just gently fade, like listening to music in the distance, or it just gently begins to fade. And what happens in heart and mind is there isn't a sort of sense of interest in it so much anymore, and it's not overwhelming you. So it may be in the background, but the mantra seems to have that capacity to distance you from that racket. How, I don't know, but that's what the experience is. And then in listening and the practice of listening to the sound of the mantra, it's always fresh. So it is in the moment. And so there's a lot of research being done about mindful meditation, etc. But with mantra meditation, it is clearly simple at one level, demanding at another, but the simplicity of just having one thing to hear and to listen really refines the listening.
Have you found that listening is a skill that's applicable in other areas of life?
I don't think it leaves you, once you've practiced in that way, it becomes more natural to listen in that way. I found when I was teaching and, acting as deputy head, when you were dealing with difficulties, problems, and you might walk into a room where parents are very stressed and concerned about their children, and you walk into a room and you hear the anxiety, you actually hear it. But you listen through that space, you hear something else as well. And it's that kind of not getting stuck on a problem, but it opens the space around the problem for you to hear something else. And often in those situations, it can be very stressful to hear something that unites you, helps you kind of relax and look at somebody in the eye and really meet the person beyond the angst, and that's lovely. That is really sort of special, to be able to start to work from that point rather than something that tenses you. So yeah, it's been a really useful tool, really useful in every way, especially when teaching as well.
Could you say in just one sentence, perhaps, what meditation has given you? If you had to compress that into one sentence?
New meaning, and not the sense of a journey, but of a daily adventure into the meaning of life. And just let go of your limitations, your fears. It puts things in perspective very often.
Thank you very much, Therese. Thank you for sharing your experience.
It's a pleasure.